My king.
Hey, what's up?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How's it?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
After a
No,
long time.
hey?
After a very long time.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. I actually had a live. I think it was like 3 or 4 days ago, with
Yeah.
a very trusted, close
Yeah.
boy of mine.
Yes.
Um, you know how guys talk, right? You know how,
Yeah.
like, when we're one on one over the phone, or like around a bride having some drinks type of talk, like the
Yeah.
real raw stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so I had a live like that, and after, like, listening to, like, when I finished it, I realized, like, as much as I like to touch on like very sensitive topics, right?
Yeah.
That one was like that was very it
Yeah.
was very hardcore and straight to the point, and
Yeah.
like it cut deep. So
Yeah.
I never do this, but I took it off because I didn't want
Okay.
unnecessary
Okay.
backlash. So I've been
Yeah.
waiting to go live again on some other sensitive stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
So yeah. 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 I think it's very. It would be very. It would have been very interesting if you had invited Mikus. Is it? Yeah. I forgot the name that the avatar name, that, like, the name that he is. Because I think there's really, I believe that there's a really serious issue in how we look at wealth in which is what we are arguing about there in what we look at wealth, when what we are arguing about there in on the group, and also the issue of marriage as well. Yeah, because I think that we have sort of relegated ourselves to poverty in such a way that everything that does not conform to what can be quantified by accounting systems, we consider it poverty. I mean, as I'm said, I've even made an example of back at home, because I also grew up thinking that we were actually very, very poor at home because we were not using money that much, but we were living. And then it's only now later that I realized that actually I grew up in a very, very rich family, because everything that we ate, we something that we everything that we ate, we planted. We
Hmm.
planted, we grew. We had cattle, we had goats, we had sheep, we had fruit trees. We have got all these things that you'd actually pay a premium to get at Woolworths, and then Woolworths will charge you a lot of money because they say that it's organic. And then, yes, it was organic, because we did not even need to buy manure to actually buy it. We could take cow dung, and then cover it until it becomes a compost, and then put it there. Then that was pure manure. So it actually brings me to the argument that I'm having with them. The argument that I'm having with what is the real name? I'm sorry that we have argued so many times, and yet I don't know the real.
Which one? Mo or Buddha?
Vuyo, Vuyo.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
more, not more. Mo always giving me problems. Uh, Vuyo, Mkusei.
Oh, yeah. Umpusel. Oh, yeah, yeah. What?
Yeah.
So what is the actual? Because I'm picking up bits and pieces of it, but yeah, what is your viewpoint on marriage then, and the way that people should be basically cohabiting?
Okay. I think first of all we have to start with the
Let me
base.
first greet Mishka. Hello, Mishka.
Hi.
Are
Oh,
those my
I
little
can
kids running in the background?
I can only hear Mishka's
Mm,
voice for the next year.
Are those my little kids running in the background?
Oh, okay.
Oh, it was her birthday yesterday.
yeah.
Oh man, I should have a talk with her. Maybe start a family with you as well. All right, go for it, boy. talking.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I think we should first start with the purpose. Why do we people get married, and then what is the reason for it? Because if we don't get married, then we can just decide to date, and then why do we decide that, you know what, we want to get married and all that? And then the first thing I want to think is that it is to create a nurturing environment in order to raise kids. So by that, it already means that you actually have to have kids, and or you should plan on having kids. So we don't, because if that wasn't the case, you could just date. You see. So, but then I see that okay, that is the first reason, and then the second reason is, okay, it's sort of a pledge. Okay, then we are united, and then we are getting into this, and then we are getting into this task for forever, or until whatever. Yeah. So, but then I've noticed that we have actually bought into the idea that this is about love, this is about romance. Because another reason why people got married was also to increase wealth, to increase the networks, to increase wealth, to increase the network, to join estates, and then all of those things, if you look at them, they are actually geared towards one goal, which is to raise to create a fertile environment and a nurturing environment in order to raise another family, to raise kids. So that is it. It was not necessarily to come and massage each other's feet or play each other love songs and then play each other. It was not for that. You see. But then we have actually been bought the idea, because it's what everyone is selling, and then it's what the wedding what do you call the wedding, what the wedding planners are selling, and then it was so. By that actually means that now that actually the minute you actually decide to have a child with someone, you have already created a responsibility that requires you to actually be in a position whereby you will actually have to create that environment for that child to be born. So that's why I always say that having a child with someone is the original marriage, because through that the two have become one, and then you are no longer now yourself, and then she's no longer herself, and then the child is no longer herself. You are a mother, another one is a father, and then there's a child. So there's already a unit there, whether you like it or you don't. That is it, and then you cannot fight it. You see. That is it. It's there. You can't change it. You are a mother. You have decided to have kids, so you are a mother. You have decided to have a child, so you are a father. And then the child is there, and then the child is born not knowing anything and dependent on the two of you. You see. So, but I think then that is, and then that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether the man has had. It doesn't matter whether the man is having the child with this woman, and then that woman. He's actually married to those two women, if there are two women, because he has created a family unit between the three of them, between him and the other child, and then also he has already created. So basically, this man has got two families. And then you cannot say one is more important than the other. And then you cannot say that one must be abandoned because it came after yours, or one must be neglected, or the child must be killed, because you cannot command something like that. You see. So now this is where we fight with Mo, because now Mo says, okay, that is cheating. Okay, fine, we can call it cheating. But then cheating according to whose terms? Are you saying that are you saying that child is less of a child than the one that you have with the man because the man had met you first? You see. So yeah, I think yeah. So based on that, I think we may actually have to readjust that definition, because I don't think it has done us any better. That is why we have got kids out there growing without their fathers, and then that is why we have got because we want to think that we can get one from column A. We want to think that we can have kids, a family from column A, and then get married in column B. And then we think it doesn't work like that. It should not work like that. That's the beginning of chaos, actually. Yeah, I think I should take a break a little bit as well.
I remember there was a live that we did that that DJ listened to. Remember DJ? They used to be in the group.
Yeah.
Doesn't have WhatsApp anymore. And he said he listened to that live, and he said you spoke for like 45 minutes non-stop. And he called it he said it was a soliloquy.
Oh yeah.
He said, I like my boy's points and I like the angles that he goes at. But then after a while, you're thinking, wait, where's the other voice?
Yeah, no, it's fine. Let me.
I'll never cut you off. You can speak for as long as you want. But,
No,
but for DJ, he has to pause it and listen to someone else and then come back and readjust his ears.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Nishi, what do you have to say? Nothing so far?
No, nothing so far.
What do you think? What do you think the point of marriage is?
Nishi has got a
Continue
child.
until I gathered my
There's
thoughts.
2 kids.
Two.
Yeah, 2 kids. Why does it seem like I'm the only one not wearing anything on my head? Maybe I should also wear a hijab. A hijab. Oh, man. Okay. What do you think? What do you think your viewpoint is on marriage? Why do people get married? Why do people get married?
I don't know. I would like to, for myself, it would be to just have my person, like a companion, and then also someone who is able to, can you stop that? Someone who,
But she said, I don't want to.
no,
Oh,
You may
sorry.
want to start whooping.
please stop that.
You may have to start whooping some ass there.
Yeah, for me, it's mostly to have someone that's there for me and someone who's able to, who's got similar goals to me in like all aspects, career-wise, family-wise, spiritually, and you're able to go on that journey together.
So I've got a lot of questions when it comes to this, right? And I've spoken to a lot of people in different age groups and races and all that. Yeah, and a lot of divorced guys, a lot of divorced females, a lot of still married guys, married females of different ages. And what I found so far is kind of like, I don't know if you would have correct me, Mish, but like, I think the families that start off with not forcing males to marry, but kind of like channeling guys to get married to women whenever they're at an age whereby they're going to leave home, right? It's always better off for the female in that sense for the long term than families that don't do that. Do you agree with
I
that?
wouldn't know because I don't think I haven't met anyone who's really forced that way.
No, not forced in that way. Like for
I know,
instance,
like just like guided, but the people that I've been around, it's always, you finish school, you have to go and study, work, and then you can think about the other stuff.
Yeah. But like for instance, like okay, Porty, you might also jump into it. But like you know how our cultures are, right? Like where a guy can pretty much decide whenever they want to get married or if to get married. And you kind of have this like a Western kind of mindset where you say, look, I'm going to test this girl out for 5-10 years. If I don't like her, I'll just move on to the next person until as a guy, I decide that, okay, you know what? Now I can get married because everything on my side of the table is good. Now I can find someone to marry. Might be a good strategy for guys because then you kind of get into a situation whereby you're already sorted. You already know where you are. Now you're looking for someone to connect to. But then for females, it's like as soon as they kind of get closer to 30 or a bit more older away from 30 and they're not don't have a companion and they're not married, it's not a good strategy for them to not have someone that they will know that they will spend their life with.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's because like females, there's not a lot of pressure on them to follow that same route as the guys. But I think they should the same pressure should be applied to females because then they end up in a space where they become dependent, and that's I feel when things go wrong. So now they have to be dependent on a male because they don't have an education, they don't have a job, they don't have some kind of career going for them. But I must say at this point, it is quite hard as a 29-year-old to now find someone who's open to, to dating or getting married at this age.
Yeah,
Because I
so
think guys my age wouldn't want someone my age. They would want someone younger. But then the problem comes in when those females weren't pushed to establish a career for themselves, and they don't have much to bring
so
to the table.
yeah, so then in saying that, so you're basically almost trying to say that, like, guys, the older we get, we can kind of sort out the bigger things, or not the bigger things, but the other things in life, career-wise, as well as where we're going to be and end up, right? So we don't really have to care about marriage and the connection and building a family as quickly as females. So whereas maybe like, let's say at 35, 40, we can think, okay, well now I am the head of this place, and I'm earning this much. This is where I want to go. This is where my situation is going to go. Now I can start looking for girls. And if I'm going to be looking for girls or women at 40, I'm probably not going to look for 40-year-olds. So I can go for a younger woman, right? Sell that to them that, look, this is how much I can bring. And then they can say, oh, okay, perfect. I can connect with you and then build a family that way, because then obviously you'll be able to have kids with them,
Yeah.
right? But then the issue is then the women that are our age or at 40 would then be like, well, who am I supposed to make? Who am I supposed to start
Yeah.
a family with?
And I think also so those females that are kind of on the same status wise with those guys, their age, then you come in and there's the whole intimidation. They might feel guys might feel intimidated if this woman's career is going better than theirs. So
Actually,
I feel like, I don't know, there's pros and cons, but I think there's more cons in women
I want to
older.
argue. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I want to argue this idea of intimidation because I've seen it. I've this idea of intimidation. I don't, as I said before, I don't think people necessarily get intimidated because for every woman that thinks her career, for every woman that thinks she's doing very, very good, very well in her career, there's guys who are going to be intimidated by that, but then there's also guys who won't be intimidated by that, who are probably doing 10 times better than those guys. But the question is, do those guys want those women?
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's also because for every woman that thinks, oh, okay, I'm doing so good in my career, there's her boss, probably her boss at work, who's doing better than her. Does her boss want her? You see, so generally it's like that's like being a shark and then going in a pond of sardines and then saying that you are intimidating those sardines. But then you are, of course, if you went to other sharks, you would not be intimidating those sharks. So now what happens is that the reason, the idea behind arranged marriages was that, okay, we want to quickly organize this so that we want to quickly organize this so that we don't get to the point whereby one is feeling that is intimidating or intimidated by the other. And then also before because in all honesty, as I said, that for example, when men get married, they are looking for things. For example, they are looking things that they actually put in their priorities. Okay, is this person cooperative? Is this person feminine enough? Is this person beautiful and fertile? Because to start a family, you want to start kids. But then you cannot say, for example, at the age of 20, a girl at the age of 20, and then a man at the age of 20, one hasn't really done anything to actually be worth something in life. But then the girl, by nature, if she's beautiful and then she's fertile, she already has value, which men who are much older than the other, older than her, actually find it as something of value and are willing to put a bidding on that one. I'm sorry for using those commercial words. I know that sometimes women feel offended but then I'm just going to be blunt like that because
just a quick question to that. Do you then think that so younger females are more attractive to older males because, first of all, they're more attracted to older males because they're likely to obviously provide kids, right?
Yes, they are likely to provide kids. It's not a matter of intimidation because, for example, when I was 18,
so they can't also intimidate them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
And then the attraction for female, so the guys, they know that the 20-year-old females are less likely to intimidate them, and also they're more likely to then provide children, right?
Yeah,
so they can also kind of control.
Yes, so it's a perfect balance. It's a perfect balance.
Yeah, so
but then
I don't think it's a perfect balance because so she's gonna make a good homemaker, but she then becomes dependent on this man.
Yeah,
because that's the only thing she's good for. But I'm saying, so it's good to start the marriage, but how is the marriage then gonna progress? The same thing with a woman and a male that's on the same like a career status. How is it might not start off nice, but it might it might have a longer run than the 20-year-old and the 35-year-old.
No, I disagree with you there, Mishka, because I don't think the reason why I called it the perfect balance is because both parties they've got something to offer. The thing is that I think saying it's not perfect balance is actually discrediting what the woman is bringing. The woman is bringing her fertility, bringing her womb
at that point.
Yeah, because she's bringing something. It's not like it's not. Even if she's dependent. Yeah, even if she's dependent on the man, the fact is that the man is also dependent on her as well. It's not like it's just one. The man is dependent on her for her to take care of the things that he would like. He's dependent on her because the man wants to breed as well, and then he's heavily dependent on her womb to be able to do that. Sorry for using the words as bluntly as I'm using, but then so it's not like one is bringing something. It's not like one is bringing economics and then the other one is bringing one is bringing the one is bringing wealth, but then the other one is also bringing another different kind of wealth. And then we cannot discredit that because we say, oh, she's young, she hasn't worked, she does not have a career or something. She's bringing something of value to the man, and then the man is also bringing something of value and security to the woman. So the balance is So the balance is there. Yeah,
so I think the perfect balance that you're talking about is in that current time in place or time in life. And then Mishka is talking about as then she gets older and then he gets older, then the balance is then no longer there because then she now stands to have less things of herself, right? In terms of like something that she's gained besides him.
Yeah.
Besides him. So now she has less to do. So now if she wants to say, for instance, go out and start something of her own, she hasn't gotten anything then. So she can't then start a business or start something else she wants to do. She always has to then play that role. And then for him, he always has to play that role. Then I think then what Mish is also talking about is that then, let's say there's a divorce or anything like that, then it's not a perfect balance because then the guy will then say, well, I've got everything that I can have to bring to the marriage. And then the female says, well, now how am I going to integrate back into society? Which is where the problem, which is where the whole alimony things come in, right?
Yeah, so and I think like I get what Put is saying, and I can appreciate like the old-fashioned purpose of marriage, but we in a modern time, there are things that are now recognized like mental health, and this domestic violence and emotional abuse and financial abuse and that kind of thing. So if you're looking at it that way, what does this woman get besides a sperm delivered into her?
Yeah.
What conversation can she have with her husband? What's the quality of their friendship or their companionship? Because they're going to have nothing in common to talk about
And then
besides the kids.
and then
I
it brings
disagree. I
so
disagree again with you. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
it brings so the dynamic that I'm seeing again is that the fact that again when you're saying it's a perfect balance in terms of she's young, he's older, he can provide home and security, and she can then maintain that, then it's a perfect balance. And in a traditional type of sense, then she just says, "Cool, I never have to get out of this relationship. I never have to work again. I never have to do anything else. I just need to do my part." Then he says, "Cool, I need to do my part too." Right now, as time has gone by, where the issues where females want to be a bit more empowered and they want to have a bit more of a say, and they don't want to be overpowered, and they want to also start things from of themselves. Then society requires them to as well be working and to as well have degrees and all of that stuff, right? So now, if you're 20 and you're dating a 20-year-old female dating a 40-year-old guy, it might work in the beginning, but as you get closer to 30 as well as the female, then you realize that then if you don't have a job or you're not in a career at that point, you can't then all of a sudden start one, right? You can't just go into the world and begin one, because then you're now dependent on this person for your income and for your well-being and all of that. So then it's not a perfect balance in that sense. So in the future, as time goes by, it might not be a perfect balance if you want to disconnect or you want to try and do your own thing. Not disconnect, obviously, the marriage, but I mean in terms of doing something else for yourself. Whereas that's where kind of then alimony comes in, where it says, look, if you're the party that then provides more socially, say income and things like that, whereas the other person then suffers from that, then you're liable then to make sure that that person keeps on working or being provided for when you guys do divorce. Because then if she's 30, most of the time the guy will be working. So if she's 30 or 35 or 40, she hasn't been working for 10, 15 years. So she hasn't been able to accumulate whatever position in life or whatever money or whatever it is that she would be able to then sustain herself. And you've been able to. But because you've been together, she's done her part, you've done your part. Now that you're willing to divorce, she's going to be left out in the dark. You can then go and connect with another female that's younger. And then as soon as you do that, sell her the exact same dream, have another family with her and carry on, because you won't be affected that much socially. Yes. So which brings me to my question of, okay, so we can say a 20-year-old female and a 40-year-old male might be good, right? So it could work if those roles are maintained, which in a few instances I've seen that, like the females in their 20s,
and not only
So the females in their 20s will be excited and want to kind of have this, okay, well, you go work, I'll go out and I'll party, and I'll go and, spend your money, and then whenever you're ready, we'll have a family and everything's cool. Then they get closer to 30 and 35 and they say, look, actually, I want a bit more for myself and I want the family and I want this. And the guy says, but I thought we were fine with me providing for you. What's wrong now? And then she says, well, nature has called and I kind of not 25 anymore and I don't want to fuck around anymore. I don't want to just, be out there and being dependent on you. I want to make my own stuff. Then the guy says, cool, you want to divorce, marry another younger person. Now that person that's 35, that's female, right? Do you guys then think that it's beneficial for them to go and connect with a younger male? Because they're obviously not going to probably be wanted by men the same age.
It's not only beneficial, it's just possible, because does the younger person want a 35-year-old woman, divorced woman?
A younger guy.
Yeah. Does the 35-year-old guy want a 35? Does a 25-year-old guy want a divorce? A 35-year-old divorced woman? Does he want that, or is it good? Is that good for him? Because it might be good for the woman, for the 35-year-old divorcee to get that. It's fine, and then the man is younger, is hotter, is more. But then, does he want that? Does he want that? And then is she willing to take a risk on that?
So I think most or some women would want a younger guy for obvious reasons. And I think that the younger guy would want the older woman for the same reasons that the younger woman would want an older guy. But then as soon
Yes.
as he then wants to start a family, then we'll say, no, I'd rather go for a younger woman or someone that's my age. So then
Yes.
it's exciting again for the 25-year-old to be connected to the motherly type provider of a
He's getting a
35-year-old
free
woman.
mother. He's getting a free mother.
Yeah, getting a free mom. Yeah,
He's getting a
exactly.
free mom. Yes. But then
Yeah,
as soon
and
as he
then
feels like he's grown, he's going to dump that mother and then get out. And then, but then now what happens of the mother now? Because the mother is going to just continue being the free mother to all these people. You see, and
yes,
it's unfair for
yes,
her. It's extremely unfair for her, which is why
yes.
I think that I think that it is very dangerous to buy into the modern way into the modern ways of marriage because they have not worked. They are not working. They have not worked. And then
Mhm,
it's clear that the old ones actually they are the ones that actually worked because the results are there.
mhm.
You see,
They've worked more. Yeah.
you know, they work
Well,
more. The
well,
results
yeah, because the stereotype is being kept alive in those communities, and the same way the older guy benefits from, if that younger girl reaches the expiry date, you can just move on to another younger one. Same as the older woman's going to keep being a free mother. It's this
Mm,
she can just keep picking up younger guys. But
yes,
mhm,
but apart from the stereotypes, also the economy that we live in requires
mhm,
two parties to bring in an income. So
mhm,
yeah.
we can't stay in that old traditional way of being married and just depend on a guy.
mhm,
Yeah, but Mishka, the current economic system, as much as it requires us to have two incomes, it requires us to have two incomes because we are providing too much labor into the companies, and then we have actually dropped down the value of labor. So it's not because that can't change. That can easily change. Remember, for example, I'll make an example in let's say 1985 or 1985 in South Africa. The amount of people of men that were working in mines, it was predominantly men, very few women. And then those men, it was required by the state that before they get their raise, in order for them to get their raise or even get promoted, they needed to get what? They needed to get married first. So that was a requirement that in order for you to be able to actually get that promotion, you need to get married first. Why? Because it is clear, even with insurance, you know that you pay lesser insurance. You pay lesser insurance if you are what? If you are married, because you are likely to be more careful than the person who's single and gallivanting there alone. And that's the first rule. The second one is that if you are married, then you have got more people, you have got more mouths that depend, more stomachs that depend on you to feed. You see, and then people were earning actually a lot of money. A basic cleaner could have enough money to actually build a house and then buy a scrap car credit free, and then buy cows and pay for his own lobola credit free. But then right now you need two doctors, even two doctors. They actually need to go and get a loan in order to fund their kids' school fees. Why? Because why? Because the women are there. Women have offered themselves. You know what? We are going to actually sacrifice our womanhood, which is we are going to sacrifice our womanhood, and we are going to be temporarily men, meaning that we are going to say to put aside having kids, to put aside being mothers, and then we are going to actually temporarily be fathers, meaning be men. To be men, we are going to have long hours, put aside pregnancy, put aside giving birth and all that. You see, so now who's celebrating here is the companies, because the companies, that means the company, if the companies, they could pay one doctor 45,000. Now they don't need to actually pay one doctor 45,000 because there's two doctors who are willing to get paid 15,000. And then so who wins at the end of the day is still what? Is still the corporation. It's not you and not us. And then I can tell you for sure, if women were to decide, let's say over the period of 10 years, that we no longer want to go back to work, we just want to get married and then stay at home and then focus on our. I'm telling you, the salaries will rise, because what, as per economics, this is not me saying this, economics is saying this, because the labor supply will be actually short, and will actually be so low that the companies, the big corporations that are looking for CAs, for accountants, for everywhere, would actually be willing to pay them double to come, and then they would actually be competing for these people, for these engineers, doctors, and everything. Why? Because the number would have gotten down, we've gotten low. Right now, I can tell you with a CA, when I with CAs, when I first in 2009, when I got into varsity, the CAs at that time were actually killing almost 60,000 take home. But then I can tell you now, as a contractor, I'm running a smaller company, I can afford a CA now. I can afford a CA. I can get a CA from Zimbabwe and then give him 15,000, or I can get a CA who's a woman who has not been working for 5 years, and then offer him 15,000. He will get that money. Why? Because there's just too many. For every position that you are applying for, there's about 200 people that are willing to accept half of the money that you are willing to apply to get for. So this is just a matter of economics. It's not like we are bound to be here. It's a situation that we can get out if we want. But then the question is, who's going to take the risk of getting out? And then the only people that actually would actually have an incentive of taking the risk are the women, because they could actually go back and say, okay, I want to be a housewife, and by them just say that I want to be my mother. I was raised by a housewife myself. My dad never had debt. My mother, but then again, it does not also mean that when you are a housewife, you are just lying down there and then eating your man's money. It does not mean that you are just laying around there eating your man's money. There's many things that you can actually do as a wife. Just like you can have your own garden. You can look after kids. Make sure that you can have your own tutorial classes. You can have other kids. There's just plenty of things that you can do at home in order to make sure that you are still at a much better economic position than the women before. In fact, I have to tell you that in all the partners, the partners that I have in construction, there's a guy he's also partly a financier. He finances some of my projects. He's a white guy. And then a lot of white guys, actually, their wives, even if they are running businesses, from home. Their wives are working from home. And then it is easier for them to get respected by their wives, because their wives don't have to sacrifice being their wives and then go being the boss's wife somewhere. Because, for example, for an average black woman, it's difficult to respect her husband, because she's your husband on weekend and after hours. Between 6 o'clock and 5 o'clock every day, she's someone's husband. She's taking orders directly from someone. She's making someone coffee at work. She's taking someone's directly. She's not even questioning that. So now she has got two bosses now. One is paying her. One is deciding whether she's going to get a leave or not. And then so now how are we as black people, for example, expect that our women are going to respect us if we don't create ourselves, if we don't take ourselves from the white system, create our own economies, and then after creating our own economies, then be able to employ our wives, be able to employ our daughters? I think we would actually be at a better position to get even more respect from our wife. But then right now, you have got my wife has to be my wife on weekend and after hours, but then for 5 days she has to be someone's what? She has to take orders from someone. She has to actually bow down to someone. She actually has to beg someone for taking leave. She actually has to tell someone that my child is sick, and then she needs to go and then look. So do you understand the position that women actually put themselves in? And then it's also dangerous. And I also take blame as men, because it's also our fault that we lost, and then that is why we are where we are. It's also because our fault that we lost, and then we had to actually go and then slave with our wives. So that is the problem that I think is happening.
The long problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, just the first point is the racial one. I understand in SA maybe it is racial, but you have a lot of these issues. For instance, like
Yeah.
in poorer countries, say India or the Philippines or
Yeah.
yeah, areas like that where it's not more racial because obviously they're white and it's not a racial thing more than a structural thing.
Yeah.
Where you still have to have both parties working to kind of finance, which is exactly what you were talking about now with the whole male and female thing.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing that you mentioned it like that because you can see how the web is multifactorial. It's not just a whole, oh, well, marry who you need to marry thing. It's actually like,
Yeah.
well, what does the economy say? What does your future say? Where do you want to be? Where do you want your kids' future to be? Where do you? And these are all things that we kind of overlook and we want to overlook because you're in love at that time or that moment, and then you don't think maybe in 5 years' time you're gonna want kids. Then what?
Yeah.
What's the love going to do that? Who's going to pay the
Yeah.
bills? What's the bills going to do? So then you have certain countries that then offer stuff like that. So you just basically describe the Middle East, for example, and Australia and New Zealand actually are also doing it as well, whereby they're saying, look, you can bring your family here, and we'll pay one of them, and we'll pay them as much as for both of you, and then one of you can take care of the family.
Exactly.
Then the other one can take care of everything else, like so the finances and all of that. So the kids will have a family, and then the you will still also have a good household that can be well run. But then obviously there's downfalls to that. You have to be married, for example, to do that. You can't just have a girlfriend and then decide, okay, we're gonna have a kid and then move out. It's like, nope, it's gonna be too dangerous for her to do that. Because in the long run, like I said again, as soon as you leave, then it's done. So then you have to have a law to do that. You have to have you have to kind of be like a kingdom, really, to kind of say, look, if you fall pregnant and you're a female and you're not married, you need to get out because you're no longer, you don't make any sense for us economically, right?
Yes.
And they've kind of understood that to say, look, well then the only people that are left that have kids are married, and therefore we are able to then provide one of the persons with double the salary, and therefore we then what do you call it? Uphold family as the main thing that you need to have. So therefore, the female, one of the persons can then take care of the child, and one of the persons can then look after everything else. And then through divorce, like I said again, then you still have to kind of go through all of that, and then the female has to leave, and then they can kind of take everything of yours. Then you have certain situations like in the Philippines where there's none of that, for example, or in Thailand where there's none of that, and you can get, as a guy, you can get married to a woman, and then you say, okay, cool, like, yeah, I promise you everything, I'm going to stay with you forever, have 3 kids with her, and then after a while say, nah, I want the neighbor, and you go next door, you have the neighbor, and then she's like, okay, well then divorce, and then we can then divide everything. And then because it happens so often, it's kind of almost like a cultural thing, and it's not managed properly, right?
Yes.
What happens is then it takes so long for the woman to even win cases like that, or to even put forth cases like that, so that you end up then as a woman in your 30s, 35s, 40 with 3 kids, and now you can't connect with another guy with anything else, and you can't even have a proper job or any job for yourself to take care of. Just
Your
yourself,
relationship
regardless.
bundles are gone. Your relationship bundles are gone. You no longer have shock absorbers. Your heart no longer have shock absorbers. You are done.
So then you kind of put in a situation where you have to say, well, what are you going to do? You don't have a job. You're not going to earn money. Okay, well, then I have to turn into prostitution, because that's kind of the only thing that I don't have to then, have qualifications for. And there's a big industry of that there, where it's like most of the women that get into that are the ones that have kids that have been left by males that decided, you know what, fuck it, I don't want to chill with you anymore. I'm going to go with someone else. And then they just go and become prostitutes or working girls, and then you say, well, that's the way that I'm going to be able to provide for my family. But then the males then kind of just go around, and we just kind of say, you know what, whatever, let me just do it to the next person and the next person. Yeah. So you find that then in certain situations or countries where the marriage thing is kind of put forth at the top to say, look, family first, and if you want the female, you need to then marry them, and families enforce that to say, look, I'm going to look for someone for you, and you look for someone for them, for your daughter, marry them together, and then they decide if they're both going to work or if they don't need to work together. One's going to look after the kids, one's going to look after everything, and then that kind of is a bit more stable. But then I think what Mishka is talking about now is kind of situations whereby you live in countries or in situations or areas where that's not really controlled like that. And it's kind of like, look, you can just hope that this guy loves you. You hope that he's going to be there for a long time. You hope that this paper that he's saying to you that he's signing with you to be married with is going to last, right? And he's going to uphold that. And if he doesn't, then you're kind of screwed, because what are you going to do then? Like, what are you going to do when you're 35 and you don't have a job and you have kids, and you can just move on and go to the next person? Whereas you you have to then legally make sure that he's doing what he needs to do. Then how do you even fund that? How do you fund to make sure that legally he's going to then pay you what he needs to pay you? Or you're going to make sure that everything is divided. Like, how are you going to make sure that? So you have a lot of women that are then kind of just thrown onto the side and said, look, I loved you, and later on I decided to meet someone else and love them, and then I'm going to give them whatever we kind of decided for ourselves, and then you can go by the Bayside, and if you want, you can contest it legally, but to contest it, you need to actually have funds to do that, which is what I was controlling in this relationship. So now what?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very tricky for both parties, man, and you like I said, traditionally, I mean, I understand it makes sense to kind of just say, look at this person, connect them, and then make sure that you stay in this role, you stay in that role. Don't try to be a male, you don't try to be a female, do that, and then everything is fine. But then the issue is, again, I think with guys, it's a bit easier for us to be like at 20, still be the same at 30, still be the same at 35, still be the same at 40, still be the same at 50. Whereas females, it's kind of like at 20 and at 35, it's a massive difference. And then that will then determine your life, really, in the social world that she was talking about.
Yeah, but Lou, sorry, Mishka. Yeah, Mishka says something.
Say Australia and the Philippines. Those Philippines is like a third world country. There, the entire country is living on that traditional role of a woman. So there you'll find that women go into marriage thinking that they don't have a choice but to be a homemaker. Whereas in Australia, if say you're immigrating, you can choose, have a discussion with your partner. There's a choice for a man to be a stay-at-home dad, or for the woman to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, and whether either one that they choose, it fits with the society. But imagine a guy in the Philippines deciding to be a stay-at-home dad. So, like, what happens then?
I want to be a stay-at-home dad.
Everyone does. Every guy does.
But now you want to be a stay-at-home dad, but your 20-year-old wife was not exposed and not given the opportunity to make sure that she can now allow you to be a stay-at-home dad.
Yes, which is why then if you're a younger guy, you're much better off dating an older woman until you're able to then accumulate whatever you need to accumulate. And then once you've done that, go on with the younger woman to then have a family. But if you're a younger woman...
That's very, very unfair for women. You know, over and above.
Yeah, but then if you're a woman and you're a younger woman and you date an older guy, it makes sense for you, because then it's like, yeah, me and the guy are in the same boat. But then as soon as you get to 30 and you have a child, or you have a child, or you decide to have one, then whatever you decide after that, then what are you going to do then? Because then what happens with the younger guy?
I think the problem there is that we are trying to come up with all these sorts of different structures of how this thing should be, but then at the end of the day, it's the more we deviate from nature, the more it's gonna cost us more in the future, because the more we deviate most from nature, because these things, these structures that we also put, they're also in a way that we ensure continuity. and then we ensure our survival as a species as well. Because I can tell you for sure that as much as in that hopping or jumping and then dating this one, and then from there once you are done, you dump this one, and then as much as it might be fun, but I don't see it ensuring our survival as a species in the world, because instead it's gonna lead to more chaos and then more confusion, and then by the end of the day, and then we're just gonna be a society that's just gonna degenerate from there, and that's just not gonna have rules. That's just gonna degenerate from there. So the me is saying that this will also be unfair. It will also be unfair to women, as I said before. Then it actually puts a woman in this point whereby her job will just be a free mother, will just be a mother who offers free services, and then it gets nothing for it, and then or gets no security for it. You see, so it is. I think it's unfair. If there's anything that I think women should be fighting for, are the pro-family laws. They should actually, instead of being pro-choice, they should actually be pro-family. They should actually be fighting for the protection of family, because they are the ones who actually benefit more in that setup than even men. Because with men, if given the choice, they would actually prefer to sleep all over the place and then not have any family, because the family brings responsibility. So that's also where my fight with the feminists is, because these people, they are pro-choice, but then at the end of the day, they've got too many choices, and then they end up making wrong choices. But then if they were pro-family, then they would actually have narrowed all their choice to one choice, which is actually family. And then all the laws that were going to be developed by the government or drawn by the government, they would be there to ensure that. They would be there to ensure. Imagine, for example, if the women said, or okay, let's say if the women protested that any man who marries, if the women protested that any man who gets a woman pregnant should marry that woman. Firstly, there would be fewer guys getting girls pregnant, and then secondly, the guys would actually be very, very careful about who they get pregnant, because they know that once you do, you cannot fight it back. You're going to have to what? You cannot fight it. You're going to have to. So if laws are, but then instead they are actually advocating for the opposite. They are saying that no, we want to be free to choose whatever we want. And then from there, at the end of the day, they go out there, they choose. And then from there, the consequences of free choice also means that you can have free choice, but then you don't have control over the consequences of those choices. And then from there, that's why they would go and then have a child with this guy, and then find out that no, this guy's shoes smell, and then they dump this one, and then from there they go and have a child with that one, and then they find out no, he's actually lazy, he's a lazy bum, and then leave. And then from there they get kids from all these different people, and then at the end of the day, there's no recourse, there's no punishment to those guys. Why? Because he's the one who chose. So I want to think that if there's any choice that they should actually make, they should be pro-family than being pro. They should be pro-family than being pro.
I think that's fair. That's fair enough. But we need a starting point, which is I think where your point about these nuclear families and really being conscious of who you procreate with.
Yes.
And that's where it comes in, right? You want this this gene pool, so to say, of your family that's of high quality. But how are you going to get that? If you being a homemaker is not something that lies in your genetics. What do you think? I don't think so. Having that ability, right? It's learned. It's what you're exposed to. It's how you've been nurtured. Whereas your intellect and your that kind of thing is your cognition. That's genetics. So now, where do you choose someone who had a good mom and saw how to be a homemaker, or you're going to find someone who can contribute to your kids' IQ?
Okay.
And then from there, you start the new process of
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Let me answer this
I
one.
think also, yeah, sorry,
I
man.
think.
Just to also on the
Yeah.
point that you made there about the females being pro-family and putting the responsibility
Yeah.
on the guy. How would you even be able to govern that? Because I mean, like I said again, in the Middle East, the responsibility is on the person that's going to fall pregnant. So if you as a female, then protect your woman, whoever you go to then give birth to, then then you then protect yourself. And if you can't protect yourself, then you're the one that then pays for that. How would you then have that have that changed and said that the guys should then be the ones that then look after themselves as to who they should get married into law?
No, no, no. Okay. This is simple, Luke. I get it. This is what happens. If, for
Mhm.
example, you say that, like, just for example, by saying that, by writing that law and then making it okay, effective, okay, if you get a girl pregnant, you're going to have to marry her. Just by that, you have actually inserted responsibility where there was no responsibility, because before there was recklessness. So
Mhm.
by putting that law, you have actually created responsibility that now people have to now be careful. Both. It's not just the other one. It's not just one or the other one. Both, because this one will know also. This one also, once the law is there, I'm sure currently, if you were to write such a law, the people who would fight against that law more are actually women than men. You know that, because that's also what they are fighting for. Because before we are here now, the laws were as I'm speaking. Because before then, the laws, it was not in the black communities. It was known that if you get someone's daughter pregnant, you're going to have to pay, or you have to pay and marry her. And then the laws were like that. But then the women, they said, no, we don't want that. We want to be able to have sex with whoever we want to have sex with. Even if and then from there they lost the right to then what they then lost the right to demand what to demand damage to demand payment from the guy. So the fact what I'm trying to say is that it was there before, and then it was polished, and then it worked until the women said that no, we no longer want that. We want to be free to have sex with whoever we want to have sex with, and then we also want to marry whoever we want. They sort of separated sex from marriage, because before, sex and marriage were actually two. They were actually two things in one. You could not get one from column A and then one from column B. So women said, you know what, we want separation of that, just as capitalism came with the separation of estate. For example, like they said that, okay, now someone can own the land, and then you can own the house on top of that person's land, and then another one says, no, you can rent the house that someone owns on top of that. So that separation, and then you can also bring own labor. Before labor, land, property was all one thing. But then right now they've been separated, and then we're actually starting to suffer the consequences of that, because it means that someone in England can come and then own, can come in Africa without, in fact, that does not even have to come to South Africa, but then can own through a company, can own thousands and thousands of hectares of land on people, why people don't even know that actually that person owns that. So that separation of that thing, same thing with sex, and that women wanted the separation of that. They wanted the right to have sex with number one, or even have kids with number one, and then get married to number two. And then that is becoming disastrous. Before, it was not like that. So to reinstate that law, it's not hard. But then the thing is that the people who would fight against the reinstatement of that law is the women, because some are having fun with this, but then there's a lot of women who are not enjoying this at all, and then they start not enjoying this afterward, after they've actually collected all these different kids from different men, and then it becomes a problem.
Well,
Yes.
essentially, it boils down to choice, right? These women, and I
Yes.
feel it was. I think it's a gesture of rebellion from having choices made for them, or not being able to make any choices. Can you stop that? I'm talking.
Yes.
Um,
We
and
must move.
and so now women are trying to get that back. But in
Yes.
the same sense, I think equally male and female need to be okay with accepting the consequences then. And I think that's also where the big issue is that they want something, but they don't want to deal with the consequences of it.
Exactly.
And now,
Exactly.
if the woman now like, no, I don't want damages paid on my behalf. I can make my own
Because I'm
choices and
not
I
a
can move
property. That's what
around.
they say.
Yeah, I can
Yes.
move around as much as I want to. But then you're gonna get to a point where you have 3 kids, you're not married, and now what? Now you're gonna cry about not being able to get married
Yeah.
and not acknowledging that what you did before
Yes.
that point contributed to you not being someone's choice.
Yes. Because sorry to interrupt you there, Mishka. Because what happens is that, you know, before contraceptives were there, before condoms were there, before everything, people knew that if you have sex with someone, that person is likely to get pregnant. And then you can choose to have sex with that person, but then you don't get to choose what's going to happen after they are pregnant, because they are already pregnant. And then once they are pregnant, there's also 2 options. The person can either give birth, or the child, or they can give birth, or maybe they can be a stillbirth or whatever, still what you call, or whatever, miscarriage or whatever. The person can give birth, or they can be there. And then again, once the child is born, you also don't have a choice, because now that means now you are now a father. So that was the order of things. People understood that it's not, you can only choose at the beginning, and then what happens after that, the consequences of that are beyond your choices, you see. But then that's what women fought on breaking with the feminist movement. They wanted to still have a choice after the thing. And then at the end of the day, who benefited from that? It's the men again, because they got away with murder. The men got a chance to get away with murder after that, and then they are still getting away with murder. And then what's next again is every the only people who benefit from this law are everyone except women. Everyone is benefiting this, because the whatever condom companies can keep on selling, contraceptives can keep on selling, the government can keep on being policing, and they can keep on policing their children and being dead to their children, and then creating chaos again. And then the companies can keep on having people who don't have kids, for example. It's the same thing with the what you call with the contraceptives. Is that at the end of the day, the people who are going to benefit in the long run from that, it's not necessarily women, because you can take contraceptive, you take, and then some of these things, the side effects have not even been studied properly, or okay, after what happens after 40 years, or what happens after taking this pill for a long time. Maybe is it possible that they can be permanent? The condition can end up being permanent. So all of these things, all of these pills and everything, all of these pills, injections and everything, they are all injected on women. And then at the end of the day, men are on the other side. They're just there chilling. The companies are there chilling, benefiting from women and from women's choices, terrible choices, some of them. And then everyone is benefiting there except women.
So how do we bring this
Yeah.
back to marriage?
Yeah. Well, before that, before we get back to that as well, do you guys think that then having a male contraceptive would make any difference?
Having a male contraceptive, what it will do, I think, is that I don't
That's the condom,
don't
isn't it?
know. Yeah,
Okay.
well, it is.
That's the
Yeah,
condom.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Well,
you, Mishka. Thank you, Mishka.
I mean, like a pill or the pill. Do you think it would make a difference?
Well, I
Not
haven't really
really.
thought about that. I haven't really thought about that much. But
Yeah, I'm thinking because I'm
Yeah,
thinking
me
about it
neither.
now as
I
well.
don't know.
As you're talking, like, sorry, I'm thinking about it now as we're talking as well, in the sense that, like, why is it that the responsibility lies with women? Like, in terms, like I said again, in very
or the responsibility
recent-
of taking contraceptives.
Yeah, the responsibility of that, and also the responsibility to not get pregnant. Why does it fall so much on the woman? Why is it
It's
not something?
it's
Eh?
be, it's be, it's because the consequences of that are felt more by women.
Yes, so
So
yeah, exactly. So then that's what I'm saying. So then if you have women then that then fight that and then say, look, we are tired of taking responsibility of sex. We think that the laws should then make that the female, I mean the males then take responsibility of sex. So we
yeah.
want them to be reversed, right? And perhaps let's say then something like that, like a contraceptive or anything like that, wouldn't actually be any different to a condom. Wouldn't be any different to anything like or even pulling out, right? Because at the end of the
On-
day, whether the male uses a condom or a contraceptive, right, and they ejaculate into someone, then the consequence of that and everything that relates to that socially as well and throughout the whole person's life is then the woman still. So
well,
then
the first thing,
whether so
yeah,
so the
the first
first
thing,
so the
yeah,
thing, sorry yeah, go for it.
the first thing that you're gonna get from that is rebellion. Because remember, even these contraceptives are not forced on women; they are there.
Yes,
They are there for them to use. And then
yes,
even this
Well,
same
it's
contraceptives that are
women
there
I
are
think
there.
take I feel that a lot of women have taken on that responsibility
yeah,
Yes.
of
because
because there are a lot of men who just like, well, it's not my fault.
yeah, well
And
again
they
exactly
and
so so
women are not women enough to assert themselves and be like, no, I am not gonna do this if you don't wear a condom.
yeah,
Yes.
They're
yes,
still giving
so
in. And so then they, I
yes,
think, are making it then difficult on themselves in terms of trauma and financially having to pay for that contraceptive that they need to take. And, you know, if they do get pregnant, the guy doesn't stick around.
So this is the nice part of the topic then, right? Because then it goes back to this whole negotiation thing. It's like, okay, well, I'm a guy, I want to have sex. You're the woman, you want to have sex, right? And it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna have sex, and then you say no, you wear a condom, and then I say, why me? You wear the condom, right? Then it's like, oh, okay, well, now it depends now who wants the sex more. If the guy wants the condom, he's not gonna really protest, right? And if
Mm.
the woman wants to, I mean, if the woman wants to, if the guy wants the sex, if the woman wants the sex, then she's gonna be like, oh, okay, fine, I'll put the condom on, and then the guy will then have sex with her. But then again, as a result of that, the woman will still bear the brunt, right? But then let's say you have a strong woman that says, no, I'm not gonna wear a condom, right? You wear it, and the guy says, no, I'm not gonna do it, otherwise we won't have sex. Then it's like, okay, now what? Right? And now you have a lot of women, like again, that will carry around male condoms to then make sure that even if there is a guy that says, no, I don't want to have sex with you, right? Then oh, I don't have a condom to have sex with you, right? That's the negotiation process on his part to say, look, I want to have sex. I know you want to have sex, but I don't have a condom, so I kind of, we kind of have to do it like this. She can still say, look, I've solved your issue for you as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And then it's like, oh, okay. Now the guy says, okay, well, no, I still don't want to use it, right? And now you're stuck in a situation whereby, as the woman, you say, well, do I want to have sex or not? And am I willing to have sex with this guy without a condom or not, right? And then at the end of the day,
Exactly.
again,
And
it's
so,
like,
so
well,
that's,
who
I
wants it
think that
more?
is
Who
the
wants it?
teaching moment. That's the teaching moment. And you should
Yeah,
be in that moment and be
yeah,
like, and you realize, no, this guy's rubbish. Move on. Because if he doesn't want to,
true,
you can't negotiate in that moment, then you shouldn't be risking having his kid.
true.
But but
And
but but
and obviously not only just that, but diseases as well, which is
mm.
probably even worse.
but that's also where the moment of weakness is as for a man, because as much as Mishka is saying it now, at the heat of the moment, too much the rationality almost like takes a back seat, and then that's where you think we that's where you think you find people looking at their partner, "Ah, no mara, the skin is still fair. I don't think there's something here. I know. Let me dive in, and then
Yeah,
boom.
yeah, and I think then a part of that is also being the fact that then a woman will kind of know that, look, I'm going to bear a bit of the brunt of whatever situation happens here, right? That if this
Yeah.
guy is very, very disagreeable and won't do what I ask him to do, and I really want it, and I know he wants it, but I'm not as strong as what he is to resist it, then I'll just take the pill, or I'll just have the injection, right? And there's a lot of women that do that. They'll say, okay, I'll have an injection. I'll bring up the negotiation process. But then if I'm losing that negotiation process, in case anything does happen and I do allow it, then it's like, okay, well, at least then I've then taken care of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's obviously
No,
not taken into account.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about, is that women now put that responsibility on themselves. But there's also an element of self-respect. You know, respect yourself enough not to give in to your desires. Come on. I'm pretty sure you can wait like the next day, find someone on Tinder.
No, yeah, as much you are right, Mishka. And then I think that's also that's also one of the most important aspects of culture and religion, because they have actually taught people to actually be beyond animals, because animals are impulsive. I want it now, I want to get it now, and then I cannot negotiate. I cannot let you go because I don't know if you're gonna come back. I mean, you cannot go to a lion while find it eating there and then take the meat and say, you know what, I'm gonna bring more meat when I come next time. Or you see, you cannot negotiate like that. So generally as people we are like that, but then we are well in our natural state as humans and other, we are like that. But then of course we've got structures, we've got rules, and then we've got religion, we've got all the cultures and everything. They actually help us in order to be able to set aside our emotions and then our desires, and then so that we can be able to enjoy life later, or to have more longevity and all that. So yeah, but then currently even that is being washed down, by the rules, because people say you only live once. People say, right, fuck it, this is the only chance that I get. And then so actually that actually means that as much as we think that we are evolving to being better human beings, actually to some extent we are actually regressing.
So this is how this ties up to marriage then. Is how do you
Yeah.
do that and resist and have negotiations like that with your partner?
Ish. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it, you know, in whatever moment it is, if there's that mutual respect and that ability to have a conversation, you know, I think that should be the first sign that, okay, maybe this can work and maybe, you know, it can go further. But if it's something as simple as respecting your physical body that's right in front of them and they can't do that, then who's to say they're going to respect the kid that comes out of you, or your emotional well-being, or your mental well-being, and all of that. So I think, and then based on that, make your decision, right? Whether you're going to marry this person or not.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it's because I think it can get very tricky to a point where it's like, look, we're trying for a child, and then it's like, okay, we'll try for a child, and then after you try for a child, if none of you wants to get your tubes tied, then it goes back to the same boyfriend girlfriend conversation of, well, then who's gonna? Sorry, it's my alarm. Well, then who's going to then take the responsibility of having safe sex? Because now you could then perhaps say, look, now we kind of trust each other, and we have, let's say, regular checks, whatever. So disease-wise, we're both fine. But then it's like, okay, well then what's gonna happen? Are you gonna wear the condom? Or is she gonna wear the condom? Is she gonna take the pill? Is she gonna be on the injection? Are you both going to then wear protection? What happens then? And it's like, it's difficult to then negotiate from that point, because then it's like, well, look, we have kids, or we've had sex like this before. So now all of a sudden, after a few years' time, we're going to change that. Like, what's going on? And it becomes maybe like a trust thing, or perhaps it becomes an even deeper underlying thing of, well, why don't you want to do this now? What's going on? You don't trust me. You don't like me. You know, like, I don't understand what the issues are. And then that could be tricky as well, which then leads on to another debate, which we'll have on another live, which is that's the birthplace of all this talk about consent and rape and GBV and all that.
Yeah. It's very, very sad.
Yeah.
And then the GBV cases are popping out of nowhere, are popping all over the place now. They are mushrooming here, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's whether you're not married, whether you're married, where it's like it doesn't matter anymore. And then again, it's like you having this conversation is a perfect link to something like that, because then it goes to the point of, okay, well, coercion. It's like, okay, what if you're my wife and I tell you, look, I don't want to use a condom, and then I feel as though now I have to sleep with you, right, because you're my husband or whatever, and then but then you don't use a condom. Is that then rape? Is that then something that we can actually talk about in terms of consent? And then it gets very gray, and it gets very difficult. And I think that's a good basis to start a conversation from like that, because it's not even just it's not even a condom or condom or contraceptive consent anymore. You know, it's about, okay, well then what happens with the act? When is it something like that? How do we document it? How do we look at it? Is it from the guy's point of view, the girl's point of view? Is it from someone from a third party's point of view? What happens then? So yeah, I don't know what you guys think.
I think as
To be
I said
honest, so
before,
can I just add like a somewhat related comment? I think if we want to do a live on marriage, you should have people who are married or have been married, because it's very difficult to keep on topic, because we're bringing in a lot of things. And Porter, I don't know if you've been married before, but
no.
So it's you know what I mean? Like, it's difficult to talk about dynamics that you haven't been a part of and stay on topic, because look how many different things you've spoken about.
Yeah.
So just like for future, Lungi.
Yeah.
No problem. That's why I asked you to do it. I mean, all the topics that we talk about, most things we've never been. I've never been part of. That's why I have the topics to begin with.
But the marriage
to try
one
and
is interesting, because especially I think in our country, there's this mix of Western and cultural or traditional. And a lot of people are trying to merge the two, and does it work? Does it not work? Which one do you go for? So I think it would be a very interesting topic, but I think just when we do that, have people who are in the situation. But anyway.
And it would actually make things even better if we had people who are married in different setups. Like, for example, people who are married in a traditional way, people who are also married in polygamy, but then it's hard to find those people. And then also, it's very, very hard. But then
maybe the easiest way to even get people like that is by having a conversation like this with people that are not like that, slip up so badly that they find it.
And then probably they're going to expose themselves, because they're going to be very offended by our conclusions and our discussions. And then they will want to correct us, and then we say, then come here and explain.
And that's pretty much the basis of everything that I've talked about, is to say, look, I am oblivious and I know nothing, and I just have weird and stupid thoughts, but I'm not willing to die with them. So I'm willing to be corrected, if there needs to
Yep.
be a correction, and if there and if there is, by all means, I'll put all the
Yeah.
ego aside and I'll put everything aside, and you can go
Yeah.
on and we can have a conversation about it. But what
Yeah.
I'm not willing to do is to not have the conversation at all, and then risk thinking that I'm right or that we're right, and then die off with that, with the rest of the world looking at me thinking,
Yeah.
the hell is his problem? Why does he think like this?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's one way.
Yeah. And you saying that, Lou, I think it takes me back to what we initially argued about or in fact what I always complain about, that we've got too many choices, and then we have got no direction, but we have got too many choices, and then we have chopped off things that actually were like things that, for example, I'll make an example with the issue of marriage. For example, again, right now they say that right now there's consent. There has to be consent before sex. There also has to be consent for condoms, and then this applies whether you are married or whether you are not married, in such a way that even the marriage itself, because remember the celebration of marriage, or the definition of marriage before these new choices came, was that, or okay, after you agree that this is yours, then this is yours, and then going there from onwards, and then you guys are one, and then you guys being one thing, and then also things like issues like sex. You cannot deny your wife sex, for example, and then also your wife cannot deny you sex, and then things like that, and then children also you have to give all those things. So it was all these choices were actually narrowed down to the first choice, that if you agree if you are yeah, they were actually narrowed down to one choice, that if you agree to one, then you automatically agree to the rest. Just in the same with sex. If you agree to sex, you've already automatically agreed that if she gets pregnant, you're going to have to pay, and then after you pay, if the child is born, you're going to have to marry, and then after you marry, then you're going to have to sit together and be a family, and then after you become a family, you're going to have to raise these children together. You see, so there's actually all the choices were actually narrowed down to one choice, and then if you make a mistake with that choice, and then you know that there's actually 10 more that you actually no longer have to choose. So the rest were actually consequences. But then now, everything, even in marriage, has been chopped off in such a way that you can choose to get married to this guy, and then after you choose to get married to this guy, and then you can now, after the marriage, you can choose, no, you don't want to have sex with this guy. Because even though you are now married, you can start saying, no, we are married, but then when I was agreeing to marriage, I was not agreeing to sex.
To that part, yeah.
I can no longer have sex with you. And if you want to have sex with me, you are raping me.
Mm.
And you're gonna
and exactly that. I think that's where the conversations lie.
Sorry, and then if now the guy decides, okay, since you don't want to have sex with me, I will go and have sex outside. And then the wife can say, if you want to go and have sex outside, that's cheating. I'm going to divorce you and take everything that you owe. And then that will be cheating, because that's infidelity, and that will be infidelity. And then she can now divorce and say, no, this man is cheating.
Yeah, and it happens on both sides.
It happens on both sides as well. You see. So now the question is now, look, basically we have tried to create more choices and then more freedom, but then instead we've actually created much more disorder.
Yes, much. Yeah, you get to a point where you have so much choice that then there's no actual direction. Yes. There's no point. Yeah. And I mean, look, like I said again. Sorry, I need to go soon. But like I said again, it's like that's where the conversations lie. That's when the things that we need to talk about can be talked about, and from different people's viewpoints and whatever. Like, I mean, most of the things that we speak about, some of them are legal, some of them are medical, some of them are social, cultural, all sorts of stuff, right? And at the end of the day, it's still our viewpoint. Now, how do you then tap into that? Do you then go and read about it, or do you then go try to say, look, I have a little bit of information about this. This is what I think. What do you guys think? Then it's like, okay, you guys think this. It's like, okay, well, cool. and then perhaps we're both wrong, perhaps I'm wrong, perhaps you're wrong, perhaps we're both right, but we're no different to anyone else that only has a limited amount of knowledge. And then putting yourself out there to then be in a spot whereby you can then be attacked for the knowledge, but then as an exchange for that, be attacked for that knowledge, and then swap that in with something that's better than it was yesterday, is then the whole point. Yeah, so that's then the whole point. Instead of just saying, look, you're not married, you're not black, why are you speaking about black thoughts? Oh, well, you're not Muslim, why are you speaking about this? You've never been to this, why are you speaking about that? It's like, that's exactly why. Because I don't know. So certain times we confuse certain things, or, well, you only speak about things that you know. It's like, no, we actually probably don't know anything. Right? So the reason why we have this is to say, for Mishka to then say, perhaps I think it's different. It would be different if you had conversations with married people. It's like, shit, actually, that's a good fucking point. So perhaps that could be then the next precursor. Perhaps then the person that could be married could then say, no, look, that there could need a tweak. But would never know if you don't then open yourself up to that. And a lot of people are scared to do that. And that's part of the negotiation that we talked about as well, is to kind of open up yourself, let yourself be able to be battered and whatever. And if it is, then you take it. Then you say, cool, now I know a bit more than I did yesterday. And it's better than the next person. And then you keep going like that. Yeah. Sorry, man, I think I need to go soon. And also, I thought your phone almost got mugged.
Yeah?
I'm sorry, I need to go soon. And I was thinking that your phone almost got mugged with the hooting in the back.
Oh, no. No. Anyway, no,
Yeah,
it's okay. It's okay, man. Yeah, but I think there's still a lot to unpack about the issue of consent and then the marriage and then the definition, or even if the whole thing is just gone, and then we should just, maybe the whole idea also is just gone, and then we should just accept that it's gone, and then try to form a new way of living, or a new way of it will also not be beneficial to try to what do you call, to raise a dead horse. Maybe marriage is the dead horse of the 21st century, and then we are trying here to beat something that to wake something that will never wake up, or that can just further that can just worse and worse and worse. I mean, you get people nowadays marrying dogs, you get people marrying themselves, you get people marrying whatever. Like there's just, all you have to do is just to see the internet, and then you will see every day there's a worse story than the previous day, and then nothing is getting.
I think maybe we should do the next one on Zoom, so we can get like a lot of different people. I'm saying, I think we should do the next one on Zoom.
Look, like I said, maybe you guys can do it. I don't run around looking for people to talk to. If I feel like having a conversation, I hit up people that I know.
I actually get. I feel like there's a few people that I want to ask.
One Twitter. Zoom's the one in the tweet. Oh no, that's Spaces. That's Spaces, whereby whereby they have people talk, and then everyone then comes and then requests, and then becomes a huge.
Becomes a speaker.
Yeah,
becomes a speaker. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no,
even things like that, like that's why I don't like to get into situations, but into spaces like that with people that are just trigger happy to tell you when you're wrong and not rectify or try to kind of teach. That's why, like I say, when I start these things, I have a thought. I know that me and you have thought about it or talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, cool, well, let's iron out what we think, and then it's there, boom, gone.
Yeah.
Instead of having someone say, no, but you're wrong, you're right, no, what you're saying is bullshit, I don't like whatever you said. It's like, okay, well then correct me instead of saying that. I think people have gotten too comfortable with not being punched in the mouth, for example, for certain shit that they say to people.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that very well, because that's exactly what happens with Twitter, for example. It's almost as if people are more inclined to disagree than to agree. Like you find that the ones that agree would actually choose not to do anything. And then the
Yeah,
ones that
yeah.
disagree would be the ones that are extremely vocal, and then also because they don't know you, and then they don't know you, there isn't any relationship between the two of you, and you are just a stranger with the Spider-Man profile picture. They can just then shoot you. They can just shoot you however they want to shoot you, and then leave
Yeah,
after that, and then
yeah,
get your
yeah,
reaction. More about for that one, it's more about the reaction, getting the reaction, and perpetuating the narratives, and then also the narratives, or also, and in some of them, for example, with Twitter, it's more about uh, getting more views, or
Sponsor.
getting more likes, getting sponsors, or protecting sponsors. That's why you'd find people there talking shit about men as if they don't have brothers or they don't have sisters, or you find men talking shit about women as if they don't have
As if they
daughters.
don't-
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Or
so it's
sisters or mothers. Yeah,
or
yeah.
you find people glossing over the entire problem just so that they don't offend their sponsors and all that. So it becomes yeah. In fact, I understand exactly what you are saying.
Yeah, yeah, bro. I mean, it's like most of the lives as well that I do start. Obviously, like I said, I know particularly the people that I'm going to talk to. I don't know where we're going to go. I don't know how it's going to be. It might disagree, we might agree, but then it's like, okay, cool. Let's talk about it. And I know there's that mutual respect as well.
Yeah.
And people get too comfortable with commenting and talking shit. That's why most of the times I even switch the comments off, because it's like,
Yeah.
if you're confident enough to write it, why don't you get on and then say it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, can you at least give me the decency to fucking say that I was respectful enough, or I was,
Yeah.
what do you call it? I had the balls to even come on and actually say something like this, and
Yeah.
then be able to be attacked. Whereas you're just sitting and saying, "Oh no, that's bullshit. I don't agree with that." And men are like, "It's like, okay, cool, come on, come, let's talk then." It's like, no, 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 I don't want to. I still have that to protect. I have that. It's like, yeah, then shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyhow, yeah, I think that consent talk then definitely is a good precursor to that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, definitely should have it. I think always also wanted to join in on that. So yeah, that one is probably going to be even, obviously, because it's such a
Yeah.
it's it's so
Yes.
broad, and most of us know nothing about
Always.
it. That it's
Yeah,
going to
bring feminists on that one, because they are the ones that are always shifting the posts on the concept. Bring lots and lots and lots of them, because they are the ones who are perpetually on the victim side, and then not coming up with solutions. Because at the end of the day, we have to come. We even when we are talking, we still have to be able to come up with the definition, or the understood definition, of what consent means, and then how to get it, and then how to all kinds of it and all that. Because because I always sense that they don't even want us to get there. I always sense that
no,
the feminists don't want us to get to that conclusion, because once we find the answer, then there will be nothing to talk about. And then, because there's nothing to talk about now, there won't be victims anymore. And then now it's gonna be another struggle of finding another boogeyman, or another. So it's yeah.
yeah, no, that's true, bro. Like I said, I mean, like most of the conversations that we do have are so complex and so, yeah, that you might find that the solution is not there immediately. Because if it was, then we wouldn't even have the
Yeah.
conversation, and the people that
Yeah.
deal with them would have the answers already. So it's a nice thing to just have a conversation at times, to say, look, I'm trying to get closer to the answer, closer to the answer, or the answers, and then at least then it's like, now you can then see someone else's viewpoint, and why it's so difficult to then get to an answer of, should we get married or not. It's like, it's not that straightforward. But if you look at it just from your point of view, it's like, of course, I'm a great guy, why not marry me? And then it's like, well, from a woman's point of view, it might be like, okay, yeah, you are a great guy, but then what trust do I have in that you're not going to leave me in 5 to 10 years? So then for me, marrying doesn't make much sense. Then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, now I see then why it could be difficult. So
Yeah, but even
yeah,
like
man.
the definition of being a great guy, yours and hers is going to be different as well.
And you need to
Exactly.
listen to it.
Because I
Listen
I
to it,
think I'm a
man.
great woman, but Porter might not think I'm a great woman.
Yeah, I don't think you're a great woman, so you don't even have to use him. All right, thanks, guys. I'll talk to you guys
Okay.
later.
Sharp,
Sure,
sharp.
cheers.
Cool. Bye.
Bye bye.